This is about to be a really exciting conversation.
I think so. I don't know. It is going to tie in a lot to male socialization, which is a topic that I've been studying really deeply recently, and also like the ways that the white culture, because you're
Mhm.
black. However, you were raised in white culture.
Right.
So
All
like,
my friends were white.
yeah, all your friends were white, your parents are white, and like the way that you're getting ready to describe the way that you were parented and raised, I imagine is similar to the way that I was parented and raised. And like this is the way that I imagine a lot of white people, and like not the well, a lot of culturally white people
Yeah.
are born and raised. And like I often face pushback from people on this server in regards to anything regarding race, because they think I mean like white skin color rather than whiteness culture.
Yeah. They
However,
don't really
if I
have
get a
that
chance to explain it,
capacity.
yeah.
Yeah.
So GG.
Yeah, I was thinking
But
about that too. I think a big issue is that we have these old notions and rules and stuff, but then we don't really have like the society to match the culture. So we end up in
yeah,
a situation where males are like expected to do certain things, and then when they grow up, they cannot find a wife, and they are not really needed for us to provide us because female can earn their own money. They might not be able to start a family. So
yeah.
these traditional things is not really available for males even if you want it.
Agreed. Completely agreed. And we need to provide support for people to like transition out of that and into like modern society, which is like, I don't know, it's a lot more flexible than the traditional ways that I was taught, at least.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
but
recently got.
there
I
is
recently got.
actually another answer here, and this might be that you might actually prefer to have a family rather than like me living like a modern life and take drugs and go to parties and then die childless. So I think a lot of people don't really want to have this modern lifestyle. They don't really feel that it is beneficial for them, which is kind of true.
Maybe. I think it might not be beneficial in compared to being like a king, like they were raised to believe that they would be. However, compared to the reality of most men's lives, I think that modernity or like moving into modernity would be good for them. Because a lot of men don't know how to handle their emotions. They don't know how to like function in everyday life. And like a lot of my things that I blamed on autism, because you had like started to explain this, Xerxes, with like modern day things are like difficult for you. And it's the same for me because I wasn't taught them. Either my family did it for me and like they shamed me for not knowing how to do it, or it didn't get done. Like that was really kind of it. And like if I did it and I did it any kind of incorrect, I would get shamed and then like I'm not gonna do it again because you're just gonna fucking yell at me. Oh my god, I'm not gonna do that. So like I feel cucked in terms of emotional intelligence and like ability to function in society because of the way that I was raised personally. Because I was raised to have an assistant and I don't have an assistant.
Yeah. So I
Mm,
recently got this book called like what white parents should know about transracial adoption.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like his perspective on like history, nuances, and practices.
yeah.
I'm about like halfway through it, but I'm just really like scanning for like anything for me. Like I don't care what my parents. I just want to know is there anything that affected me that I just haven't fully realized has affected me?
Probably. Where are you like? So I know that in a lot of black culture, they're raised with like you are what you are kind of mentality, like growing up. So like
Yeah, it's more like well, if you're black, if you're a black man, you're like pretty much automatically like hyper masculinized by like society, right?
yeah,
You can see that reminiscent in like porn.
like sports and like everything. Yeah, movies. 100%. I agree with you.
Yeah, and if you look like you fit that role like visually, but you don't in actuality, it's like a huge mind fuck for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you look like you fit that role? Like, is that what you were like being built?
I wouldn't say that I look hyper masculine. I wouldn't say I look feminine, but
Do you think
like
you would?
I feel like I could look more quote unquote Chad, if you want to use that terminology.
Yeah, you kind of sound like a twink, or like Twinkie. I don't know, but like, hmm, interesting. What have you found anything interesting in the book so far that like applies?
Well, I had another book which was about like, so there's this like term called coming out of the fog, which is talking about adoption, and it's sort of like an experience that some adoptees have,
Hmm.
where they basically realize that adoption isn't all milk and cookies, and like that shit fucking actually hurts,
Yeah,
like a lot,
yeah,
like especially if you really bought into say like the cultural or like the cultural or parental narrative of like these people have saved you or like you should be grateful or like any of like the like what most people say about adoption that have no fucking clue how it works.
yeah. It's really
Yeah,
like that white culture like superiority complex. I'm gonna save you, like imperialism of ideas. I
Right,
don't
absolutely.
know. Yeah, that's really interesting. How do you think
And
that impacted you growing up?
well, god, I kind of was like I was kind of a mama's boy,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. Just kind of ashamed about like how much, but like I guess I just really I don't know. I mean, I'm a child, so I really just want parents ultimately. But
Like all
yeah,
children just want their
right.
parents to love them. I don't know.
But no, like we like my siblings and I have two siblings who are like half siblings in a sense. We share the
Also,
same mom.
also adopted, or so like
Yes.
also racial
Yeah. Yeah.
adoptions. Okay.
Yeah. So I had my own room and they had a separate room. I feel like my life would have played out completely differently if I had a brother. To be completely honest, like I wanted one, but
They're both
never
girls.
happened. I had two girls and just me in my room alone. So I feel like that's psychologically effective me. Um, where what was I talking about?
yeah, we
You're
were
telling me
talking
about how it.
about adoption. I personally don't actually like the idea of adoption, and especially if it is this large genetic distance, because biologically, if there is like this large distance in genetics, there will not be the same bond with the parents. So I don't actually think transracial adoption is a particularly great idea for that reason.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I mean, when I was younger, and I guess I was like more under like the delusion, in a sense. I I kind of God. So like my parents would tell me that like when I was younger, I mean they obviously told me that I was adopted and details about that. But they would also say like yeah like we would take you to the park and we like a cop would come over and he'd be like is are these your kids? Because they thought like we got like kidnapped. I kind of feel like that was funny.
Yeah, this is probably doxing myself too much, but one of my cousins, or one of my aunts, has a kid with a black guy, and then so one of my cousins is mixed, and then they adopted another white kid because they were like fostering. But
Yeah,
like that same thing happens to my uncle when he's with my white cousin. Like people will come up to him and be like, "Is that your kid?" Because he's like dark, like he's the color of the background of you on this like profile picture thing. Like maybe not quite that, like, but he's like dark. So like, and then my white cousin is like bright. So like he also experiences people coming up to him like all the time. So like I'm just like relating that experience with things that I've heard in my own personal experiences. So like I imagine
yeah.
that would be
And
stressful.
I
So
would
like
I would be like we would go out to say maybe like a the Chinese buffet, and we'd just be sitting there as like a family, and you would just see like these other boomers like freaking glaring at us, and I'm like, yo, shut up, leave me alone.
like shut the
Um,
fuck up. Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah. Honestly, like I feel like I was really good at tuning it out. I really don't pick up. I never really picked up on that stuff like too much. Like
You're not. You would say you're not really receptive to like social cues or things like that.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, probably, but I wouldn't go that far. It's more like they could be staring at me for any reason, and that's just one of the reasons.
Fair, fair. So it's
Yeah,
like desensitization to it.
sure, yeah. They probably were staring at us because of the racial mix, and like I guess we probably look pretty weird to someone that's not in the sphere.
Eh, yeah, I don't. I feel like a lot of, especially white people, get really stuck in their heads about like what the way things should be. But like, I don't know. I come from a more my I don't know. Parts of my family are
And
more mixed. So like exposure to it when I was a kid makes me like I don't know. It's very normal to me to like that not be the case.
and like 2 days ago, I actually reached out to my parents' like adoptive case manager to
Yeah.
tell her like all the shit that went down when she stopped checking up on me.
When did she stop checking up on you?
I mean, I don't really know like how things work, so I had to like ask, but apparently like they stopped checking in, or stopped checking in when I was like maybe like 2 years old. So I actually apparently was brought to my dad like several times, like my biological dad. I did not know that. I feel like I
Mm.
was never told that until I talked to her, but maybe I was and I just forgot. I remember like I would ask questions about my origin. I would
Hmm.
get like decent answers. It's just like none of them ever felt. I mean, actually, so as kids, I feel like me and my siblings had this like slight fantasy or like this really weird fantasy that like our parents were lying to us. And like that they were like withholding like juicy information.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of funny. Kind of
Yeah.
not. But
No, it makes sense though. I can understand.
yeah, yeah. Like we're kids.
It,
Yeah, and so yeah, so I was telling her about how I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I was like, I don't know. I'm just kind of confused on like how I ended up in a family system with like two emotionally abusive and neglectful people with hoarding and narcissistic tendencies.
because
I
we're
don't
in
know.
a culture.
Like I was just like, how did that happen? And she was like, she was like shocked. I feel like she's like actually like uh I don't know, like a decent person. She's kind of like part of my support system now, I guess.
Yeah.
But I was talking to her, and yeah, she was just mind blown by the things I told her. I was like, yeah, I specifically remember that my mom told me and my siblings 4 times when we were misbehaving when we were younger that if we do not behave, she is going to send us back to DCYF.
Oh my God.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
And so my 7-year-old mind was like, I mean, I had a lot of like self hatred. Like it was more like if anything happened, it was like I took like too much responsibility, and it's like that child like the way that they interpret events, where they
Yeah.
like take on yeah. So I developed like a lot of self hatred in my life where I was like, that's my fault essentially in a sense, like partly unconsciously, but I had this idea that like what if I called DCYF? Like, I'm pretty sure the house is not supposed to look like this. Um, and then I was like, but I have sisters. And what
Yeah.
if we end up in a place that's worse? And
Yeah.
then, in a sense, I feel like I would feel or be responsible for that. And I don't know
Yeah.
how any of this stuff works. Like, it's not like they gave me an in depth essay on how adoption works and how
True.
DCYF works.
You're a kid like in prison, stuck with these captors, and you're like, what the fuck do I do? Like, what do we do?
Exactly, exactly. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just stay here.
Yeah.
So I didn't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's probably the
But then I
right
was telling her,
call, to be honest, because often you end up in a worse situation. Like if you're not too badly abused, you are often better off staying with your current parents or adoptive parents. That's unfortunate, but if you like have looked at the foster care system, it's a total disaster.
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like the thing that like I feel like the reason I had that the dream where I couldn't express was because like so my dad's basically like this pushover parent, like this pushover guy in a sense, where my mom is like the controller of the relationship in a sense.
Yeah.
But it's mostly because they just don't fucking communicate. Like, um, but that's just like the dynamic that they're trapped in. And so,
Culture,
and so,
goddamn it. I'm working on.
and so, where was I going with this?
I actually have a theory that often these pushover males are males who don't really value reproduction, so they end up being like pushed over. While if you do care about reproducing, having your own children, you will have to be more assertive. And this is a necessity to like make it as a male, because you cannot like get too cocked if you like value reproduction. It might be incorrect, but I
I
think it's true.
I just feel like I never really learned how to stand up for myself as a human being because of seeing my dad like that.
Yeah, I feel that. Do you feel like being there, like, I imagine if your dad was getting treated like that, you and your sisters as children also were probably getting treated a similar way.
Oh, sorry. Now I remember what I was gonna say. So, like, my mom would like, I don't know, she'd like announce something or like, I don't know, she'd call some shot or whatever the hell she's doing, silly
Yeah.
stuff. And my dad would like, and then I'd like, maybe my sisters would object like verbally or like, I mean, I don't really think I put up much of a fight. I was more like, yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna go back to my room. Um, but like my dad would be like, he would say things like, "Mom is never wrong," right? And it's like, that's not how it fucking works, dude.
Yeah.
I hope you don't sincerely believe that. But no, I guess, and I remember watching a few like TikToks on like narcissism, which I feel like is like the worst place to learn about narcissism. But I was like, yeah, my mom probably has narcissistic tendencies. I feel like that makes sense.
I
Yeah.
actually think that in a modern society you kind of need to have narcissists to do well, because you get rewarded for having these tendencies. So even if you don't have it originally, you kind of need to develop it and become a bit of a narcissist and like value yourself and your status and all that, because it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like
Kind of. I agree with Adolf in that, like, it is a socialization pressure, and like it's beneficial to be that, like, within. I want to say like Western culture. I call it white culture a lot, but like for well, really, I refer to it as American culture because I'm a fucking American based, American pilled. I just care about America way more than everything. But like, I don't know. I'm often just like American culture, but like if I really do mean like Western imperialism. Narcissism is beneficial, and like that's why so many white people act with like minimal emotional reciprocity or like connection, and like it's difficult for us to build that because of the things that we learned. Because my household was a similar way to yours, and like most of my friends' households that like I went there, like you could tell that like they was similar. Like all of us have had parents that like they were just shitty parents, like emotionally abusive, like negligent, like I don't know. So I am just affirming what you're saying. Like I believe you, and like yeah, it's fucking shitty. But I also agree with Adolf in that like socialization pressures, like kids growing up like that, often become that. So like it's
yeah,
a pattern that like repeats and
I like
difficult for me at least. I don't know how you've like overcome it, but like I struggle with it every day.
Yeah,
so
if you like look at my text, I actually like pretty much like encourage the same behavior, because I know that it is beneficial, and we need to be like that. You need to like promote yourself and at least pretend to like have faith in yourself and like lift up yourself as some important figure and like take space and all that is very important. And
Mm.
especially like I think especially in the United States it's important, in Europe maybe to a lesser extent, but American culture very much benefit people who have this self-confidence. And
Mm.
often, like people who display confidence in what they want and what they believe, they end up getting support and people behind them, even if they are not actually that competent. For example, Hitler believed in his ideology and what he wanted to do. So he ended up like getting the German people behind him, and then he led them to ruin and disaster because it wasn't actually a competent leader. And this is like
Mm.
a big pattern with social interactions that people are not really good at determining if someone is competent or not. This is also why, for example, voting often ends badly because someone like Trump or Biden get people behind them because they can like talk to the crowd well, and then they are not really competent as leaders. I think Trump was maybe more competent, but it's like a low bar.
Or like Trump, all Trump knows how to talk to a crowd. Excuse me, he knows how to talk to his base and like get his base riled up, but he's not very competent.
I mean, what's interesting is that Trump kinda got a lot of stuff done despite having all these personality issues. It kinda reminds me of Commodus, the Roman Emperor, who had these
Mm.
personality issues but still somehow managed to like govern the empire in like it continued to exist. And this was in
Mm.
large part because other people were the one actually making the decisions, and Trump and also like someone like Commodus who were both big narcissists. They allowed other people to make the decisions for them, and then when the things go wrong, they just like sacrifice the one who were the ones actually governing. And Trump was like the same as Commodus, almost the same type of behavior.
Gotcha.
It's actually very interesting. Like it is like 1,800 years later, and it's like the same thing again.
Yeah.
You have this narcissistic leader who is able to like appeal to crowds and stuff, but not actually super competent in governing. But also because other people are doing the actual work, it somehow doesn't really harm the empire that much. Like
Mm.
Trump, like after he like left office, America was probably like stronger than before despite its incompetence. Because
I don't know. He put a lot of people that are dangerous for like at least uh my section of the community in like positions of power, like judges that are like transphobic or like Christian fundamentalists or
yeah,
uh,
but
like elected or not elected but appointed people.
yeah, but the thing is, when it comes to building an empire, it doesn't really matter if like 1% of the population gets screwed over. That's less important. What matters more is like the military, and Trump really prioritizes that. It's the same with Biden. Like Trump at least said he modernized the nuclear weapons.
Mm. Anyways, not to get off topic. Xerxes, what were you saying? Sorry.
I kind of forgot. I was looking at my phone for a second.
You're good.
um,
You were talking about your parents.
yeah. Yeah, so like another thing that they would do is not to me. This never got done to me
Mhm.
because it sounds fucked up, but I'm a quick learner. But they would like wash my sister's like mouth out with like soap.
Oh my god, you just made a memory come back to me. I've had that happen before. What the fuck?
Yeah. I
Oh
was
my.
like, that's not gonna be me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's not a good taste, so I'm gonna stay clear. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be safe. But honestly, I feel like most of my problems actually come from staying there longer than I had to.
Yeah. How long did you stay?
I mean, like, so it's almost shameful to say.
It's not shameful. I still live with my mom and I'm 21. So.
Well, I mean, okay, okay, I'll just say it. Okay, fair. So I would say, I mean, like the entire time, pretty much, except when I was 9. 2015, and like, God. So I was like very suggestible, but
Yeah.
I I was very into a lot of like white ideas.
I think it's really difficult to like become independent from parents if you haven't like been raised well, because then you will
Um,
not learn to take care
oh,
of yourself.
I was never really a 4chan person.
Really?
No. So do you know Telegram?
I do know Telegram. Oh
Yeah, I
God.
Yeah.
used it a bit.
So I created like the largest or the second largest like libertarian meme channel on Telegram.
Oh
Yo, cool.
no.
Regret it deeply, but I did.
Dude, that's so
And
bad. Oh no.
and I met some interesting people because like Telegram came out with like groups and like all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I just had a lot of internet friends because there was also this app called Plague that no longer exists, which was like a really uh, it was like a social media that was like not at all popular, but it was like interesting, cool, and fun, like the layout.
Yeah.
And I met a lot of people off of there after like the developers were like scrapping the project, and
Mm-hmm.
so I have a bit of like a online community from that of those two things.
Yeah.
I've also like written, say, I've also written an article about 3D printed. Wait, do I want to say
I mean,
it?
3D printed guns,
Oh,
I
but
guess.
But yeah, so I mean, I've written stuff about like 3D printed guns. Like after uh, there was like a lot of media scuffle about them, and I just got really angry because I knew they weren't telling the truth, and I typed up this entire freaking thing out of spite.
Yeah.
I didn't really know I had that in me. And let's see what else. I've spent time in like a lot of probably like racist type online like Telegram groups or um like not really nothing like let's see, like ones that would be considered extremely questionable. Not that like I shared any of their beliefs. I just really was, my mind was like, this is interesting. Like a new
Yeah.
culture where they're using different terms, a whole new language to learn.
Yeah, dude.
It's okay. Makes you feel better. I already had you pegged as all of, or not all of this, but like the internet shit. I figured you don't get the transmaxing if you're like a normie.
Yeah, yeah. True.
The thing is, it's
Yeah,
actually
no,
like,
I know. Like, I mean, I've been in like a lot of, I guess, quote unquote, underground stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's really easy to like find yourself like into these groups because they are these extremists, whatever it is, if it is libertarians or whatever they are, often aggressively recruiting people, and they may are often like pretty good at propaganda, so they might be able to like fool someone who doesn't really understand this complex political stuff. Like me personally, it took me a while before I realized that libertarianism was total nonsense and just not workable. Like I was like going back and forth, what could this work, could this maybe not work, and eventually I realized that this is like a total garbage and nonsense. So I like I'm a total authoritarian right now. I don't really believe in like limits to government power. I don't think it's needed at all. I think you should have like one person or like elite board governing society, and that's it. I don't really like this libertarian notion of like in the rights in the constitution. That's like total nonsense. But like I can see why people don't really want to like have a strong government, because right now the people governing are not exactly competent. So reaction to that is often that let's try to limit their power, while the correct answer is that they shouldn't be in power in the first place. So it's the wrong answer to legitimate like concerns about the government in a lot of cases.
Mm.
And it's like heavily pushed to like libertarianism is like something you will encounter a lot like online and stuff. While other ideologies are not nearly as prominent.
Yeah, like if you're like 13 and you just, I mean, I guess this can't really happen anymore because like we've got iPad kids, but back in my day, like if you were like 13, a little bit insecure, a little bit isolated, a little bit lonely, no freaking parental like guidance or supervision, and you came across the internet, like it really was not hard back then to like get sucked into a lot of algorithmic stuff.
Yeah.
Like anyone that was like sort of like the whole quote unquote like Ben Shapiro pipeline or whatever.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
no, that's
Yeah,
so
like stuff like
bad.
that.
Yeah, these
Like
like conservatives are really prominent online, like these Steven Crowder types. And I remember listening to them for a while, but then you realize that they are talking nonsense. Like if you are like competent and know a lot about politics, because I studied these things, I could like figure out when someone was bullshitting me. And I listened to a loads of different people, like everything from like the most extreme Nazis, I'm talking of people who are in like in favor of genocide, and I would like listen to them. So and the thing is, what I realize is that often these extremists they actually have a point, like some of their like beliefs are actually correct, but then they mix it up with really bad stuff, so it ends up not being good. But sometimes when you like mix this stuff together, it can maybe become something good if you like ignore the horrible stuff they are in favor of. But I wouldn't like recommend it to most people for obvious reasons. Because most people cannot really have the critical thinking skills to realize that someone is like telling them nonsense. Like look at all these religions, like in Christianity for example. Like sure some people, like even if people point out that it is like nonsense, people will believe it anyway. And then there is all this community aspect that you have a community for this like thing, and then people don't really want to like talk against that.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's important to like take the average of a lot of different people's ideas. I had an AI teach me that on the internet, but yeah, basically
Yeah, I
like
was not
I don't.
saying you should like average out opinions. What I was saying is that like even people who are wrong and are like extreme, sometimes if you listen to them, they might have some points that make sense.
No, of course, that's what I mean. Like you take what is valuable and like over time, like you talk to enough extremists for different topics and you'll figure out the lines of truth between all of them. But you shouldn't be an extremist like in itself for certain topics. Like really extremist Nazis, I don't know. They might have some points of validity in terms of
Yeah,
like the issues that cause them to come to those conclusions.
yeah.
However,
The
the
thing
answer is
is,
not kill Jewish people.
uh,
Like it's
uh,
it's like, oh, you're having socioeconomic issues and like your boys are being trained to be like highly aggressive and like super traditional, and then they can't fill the roles and then they're angry. Like of course they're gonna fucking overthrow shit. Like that's how it works. They're fucking pissed off. But like I don't usually like the conclusion that they come to, but a lot of their reasoning is usually like decent. Because you gotta suck people in somehow. You have to have some basis in truth.
yeah, the thing is, something I realize is that when it is to this more extreme Nazis, for example, one thing they said, and this is the case of National Alliance, for example, and also Imperium Europa, which is actually that extreme, is that they both advocated for like conquering the entire planet. This was like the first time I heard that. And even though I actually took that with me because I realized that why should we have these different states? It's not needed. We should like have only one government because then you cannot have these destructive wars. So I actually ended up being in favor of imperialists because of that. I think it came from there. I actually think it came from Imperium Europa. This guy in Malta is called in Swedish at least. is like in favor of like European empires. I actually took that from him for my politics. But I'm not sure if it is or not. It is like in that direction, but kind of like a Sobatolian. They are like kind of like far right, but they clear what they really want. Like maybe more traditional right wing. Why don't hear you?
Not to derail it again, series. You were just telling us about your online history, and we took it all the way here. I apologize.
Yeah, it's but I have like a similar like experience because I realized that society wasn't working, so I was looking for like anyone opposing it to see if they had like a good alternative. And what always ended up happening was that for a while I was like excited, oh, these people might be into something, but then I realized, oh no, this is not like an improvement. This happened like every time, so eventually I just realized that I need to like create my own like vision for society. I cannot like join someone else. And this was after that I ended up creating transmaxxing because I realized that I need to create my own vision, my own spaces, and not rely on like other people to build stuff for me because it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And of course, transmaxing, even though like people think that it is like this extreme thing, like the goal here is that I try to make this as a more general space for all trans people. But the thing is that if I had just created like a trans space general stuff politically correct, I wouldn't have like over 1000 members because I was able to be a bit edgy and like push this instead to trans stuff and other like stuff that riled people up. I got a lot of attention. So I like so you need to play it like smart in that way. But I do realize that for example with dysphoria that most people like looking to transition even if they might have as a motivation to get a girlfriend or whatever, like even in these cases it's usually that they have dysphoria too, and then they might this other benefit that transition can still like be a motivation, but it's usually not the main reason. And I should say to creative volumes that this is still being recorded. So if you talk now, it might be posted online at some time. I'm not decided yet.
Oh, it's I don't know if I should say your name in the group chat. It's sorry, but yeah, sorry is fine with that. Sorry's actually going to be a YouTuber. Sorry's going to be like famous for a podcast that they're going to make it. So I'm excited for that for her.
Probably not. Like when I upload for stuff for YouTube, it rarely gets more than like 200 views or something. Like it's usually below 1000 at least. So I shouldn't worry too much. I'm not really like good at YouTube stuff. I rarely upload, and yeah, it's really hard to like get views on YouTube for some reason. You need to like be picked up by this strange algorithm, which often doesn't happen. Sure, I can maybe stop recording now if you don't have anything more to say.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. I do want to talk about a different topic that we shouldn't record. It's about some server drama. I